Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another classic WoW video. My name is Kargoz, and today we're going to be doing just a fun little low-hanging fruit video discussing the races in vanilla World of Warcraft 112, the patch that I love and call home. We're going to be talking about the races not only from PvE viability, PvP viability, but also just like looks, style points, animations. How do people perceive you playing certain races, and whether it's male or female too. So those are all factors as well. We'll try to account everything we possibly can. We also have a couple hundred people in the chat hanging out here too. You'll see if you're watching this on YouTube on the right, you can follow along with the chat there. You can kind of get their insight on things too if I put my foot in my mouth or something. So unfortunately, we have to deal with these retail looking icons. Sorry about that. Here we go. We're gonna get right into like the hard-hitting ones. So S tier is the best. It is like the GOAT tier. So what race is truly, or what races are truly the best in vanilla World of Warcraft? Is it Undead for Will of the Forsaken? Is it Orc for Stun Resist, Blood Fury, which the attack power steroid, Axe racial? Is it Human with perceptions and weapon skills for both mace and sword? Is it Tauren? The two real ones that come to mind that people are gonna really want to just immediately want to put up in S tier, they're gonna go Human Orc up in the S tier. Is there any other candidate that might even possibly be a consideration for S tier? Dwarf kind of comes maybe close-ish. That's the only one. Some people might say Troll, because Troll, for many of the races that you can play, end up being like PvE bis, but they end up not being PvP bis. I don't see Troll up there. I don't see Undead up there. It's Dwarf only for just Priest. Yeah, I mean, Dwarf have very strong racials for any class. But yeah, for Priest, it is exceptional. So I think we're pretty solid with just putting Orc and Human in the conversation for S tier. What is truly the master race in vanilla World of Warcraft? So on the Human side, you have Diplomacy, which is a bonus to rep gain, which is not nothing. It is definitely still a factor. There's a lot of rep grinds and tiresome rep grinds in this game. Everything from Timber Maw Hold with valuable rewards there. The Earth Strike grind. There's a ton of reps. Getting exalted with all the PvP factions, that is not nothing. Secondly, you have Perception, which again, I do think Perception in vanilla is something that was more underrated in the years past, and I feel like especially since TBC Classic has re-released and people were able to jump into the arena in TBC and really see how Perception dominates the arena, and it is so incredibly important that it pretty much defines the entire arena meta. And people are compelled to go Alliance for Perception, and it totally alters the way people have to play when they're playing Horde versus, Alliance Rogues Perception, because it's really a stealth battle, and getting the opener is so important. But there is no arena in vanilla WoW, so you don't get this min-maxed PvP in a vacuum. You're more like open world or BGs, and everything goes with consumables and stuff like that. So you can make up for that disadvantage of not having Perception through other ways, right? So it's not as big of a deal. But Perception is as strong as it is in TBC as it is in vanilla. So it's a fantastic PvP ability. I actually do think, I've thought about this quite a bit, I'm inclined to put Human in the S tier and Orc in the A tier. I think Human is a bit better than Orc. So they go pound for pound with one weapon skill bonus each, right? Orcs get axes, Humans get maces and swords. So actually, Humans get 2 and Orcs get 1. Now, if you look in the game and you look at the best items in the game and the progression of weapons, from leveling all the way into MC to BWL to ZG to AQ20 to AQ40 to Naxxramas, what weapon is the strongest in the game? What weapons? It's undoubtedly swords, right? But second place is probably maces. There's some fantastic maces. From the hammers from AQ, from ED, Empyrean Demolisher, early from Kha'Zix, Iron Foe. There's some really good maces too. You have to understand. So I mean, these, that is a huge deal to have both swords and maces. And these are weapons that not only just warriors can use, rogues can use. It's a big difference. I hope you're seeing this. Like, the axe progression is there, but it's janky. Like, at 60, you're using stuff like Flurry Axe, Axe of the Deep Woods off the auction house, and it's really because the opportunity cost of not using an axe is too high. So you just end up using this piece of shit axe, just because the opportunity cost of using a non-axe is too high. You feel me? So I believe that swords and maces are just like a better weapon class than axes, and that alone is already inching me towards putting them above Orc. And then you look at a PvP racial. So you have like stun resist versus perception. Stun resist better than perception. We give it the edge there, right? Stun resist, very, very good. The fact that orcs have that like 25% on top of the base, or what's hardiness, guys? Again, I'll look at my hunter right now. It's you have base 5% stun resist plus an additional hardiness 25, so it's 30. And then, you know, if you're like a warrior or something, you have so much stun resistance at that point that a lot of times you end up going for that additional 15% from protection and getting last stand and going like a different type of hybrid warrior to get up to like 45 or whatever it is. So it's no joke. One of the strongest PvP racials, maybe the single strongest PvP racial in the game. It's probably like their biggest thing, orc, is the stun resist. Followed by the axe specialization, maybe they're tied. And then we have Blood Fury. Blood Fury is like a damage steroid. It's like a trinket, 2-minute cooldown. And it is good in PvE. It is good in niche situations in PvP as well. The downside is that it mortal strikes yourself. And there are some fun, interesting like plays you can make with it, like in PvP. Like if you use it right off the rip, you can actually use it advantageously, so you can time so that when that like Blood Fury effect falls off of you, it actually cleans you from any mortal strike. Like, so if you have the Blood Fury mortal strike, like a warrior can't mortal strike you because you already have a mortal strike effect on. So you can time it with your healer and be like, yo, it's falling off in 3, 2, 1, heal me, and they can full heal you before you get applied another mortal strike. There's some kind of like some cool tricks you can do in PvP with it. But ultimately, I would say that for most people who play Orc, they end up getting baited by the ability a lot, and at the end of the day, they end up using it a lot less than they thought that they would use it. Is that fair to say? So it's good, but it's mainly good on like PvE rogues, PvE fury warriors who, you know, don't really have any responsibility to tank. But most people are going to give you a hard time if you're like tanking and you're popping Blood Fury, or in PvP it can grief you pretty bad. So it's good, but it's not maybe as good as it seems on paper. And then you have the you know, the pet damage, which is kind of whatever. So that's my initial inclination. We might bump Orc up to S tier as we go. We have to see as we fill out the other stuff. This is looking pretty accurate to me. Thoughts on this, guys? So we'll talk about Dwarf for a second. Dwarf from a purely PvE standpoint. Does it have any class that is PvE bis on Dwarf? One, and that is Priest. But it's a big deal. I mean, Fear Ward is a Priest racial, and it's a huge deal in PvP and PvE. It makes a lot of fights like just way easier and smoother. Stuff like Onyxia, you can throw it on tanks, you can throw it up on key players. And most priests on Alliance are going to be like strongly encouraged to go Dwarf. They also look pretty cool aesthetics wise. Thoughts on the aesthetics of humans in vanilla, guys? I think they look really cool. I think you can make like a nice male, you know, bald, clean cut, chiseled face looking BT1 mean looking warrior, or even rogue, and it works fine. Like going a human male cast, you're definitely going to be memed on. But if you're going, some people like to be the meme. They go like darkest skin tone with the lightest hair, bald mullet, and they just fully embrace the meme. That's part of their thing, and I've seen people do that a lot. Orc obviously looks amazing. BT1, BT2, fantastic aesthetics, but both of these look really cool. Dwarf as well, aesthetics, animations look really cool as well. But yeah, Dwarf Priest is massive, right? And most of the Alliance are going to be Dwarf Priest. You're going to have a ton of these Fear Wards available. And then Stone Form in vanilla is insane because it can, you know, a Dwarf Rogue can use it to take off Crippling Poison, Bleeds. It's almost like the closest thing a Rogue would have to like a Cloak of Shadows in vanilla, right? As a Dwarf Hunter, phenomenal as well. Phenomenal on Dwarf Hunter. I can't even express to you how phenomenal it is. It's so good. Especially if you're Entrapment or something. I mean, your matchup versus Rogue, it's actually better than being Orc Hunter. It's not necessarily a Cloak of Shadows for you. If you're a Dwarf Hunter, this is Blessing of Freedom for you. So you have a Rogue on you, Crippling Poison, 70 or 80% movement speed, slow. And that's the only way a Rogue can slow you is Crippling, right? They have no other tool for that. You put down a Frost Trap, you hit Stone Form, and you can just dance around in the Frost Trap, flare the Frost Trap, they're getting entrapped over and over again, you're just Blessing of Freedom, running around having a jolly good time. Or you can use it to get out of blinds, because blind is considered a poison in vanilla, and rogues have 2 blinds because they can prep blind in vanilla. So just having an answer to blind is a huge deal. If you're playing a dwarf in general, you have an answer to blind. That's like the #1 way that rogues try to reset and get, you know, full DRs on all of their stuns and everything like that, right? They just get you to use a bunch of cooldowns and they just blind you and then like get the sap you, wait for all the DRs to fall off, and they go again, they do another go on you, right? Stone Form, phenomenal racial. Can take off bleeds, it can take off poisons. If you're a priest or something like that, you can take off Hunter Viper Sting, and you're immune to that Viper Sting through the duration of the Stone Form. That's a huge deal as well. I honestly can't think of anything bad about Stormform. They're really, really powerful racial on a somewhat short cooldown. Just pure value add. So, Fear Ward, excellent. Stoneform, excellent. Frost Resist, not nothing. I mean, it is something you actually need. If you go into Naxxramas, like, you need to have X amount of Frost Resist, and it's something that gives you a little bonus. The treasure hunt thing is whatever. There is gun skill, so there is a world where you can make use of that gun skill a little bit. You know, if you're a dwarf hunter or something, you're in the early gear stages, you want to use a dwarven hand cannon. Early pre-bis phase, it drops while you're leveling, and you buy a cheap one off the auction house versus like a level 63 target. That's 3 free hit right there. And you may not have a Biznix accurate scope for quite some time. It may not drop, so you can just get 3 free hit from your gun racial. It's not bad. It's not useless. So I think that they're solid in the B. You just have to compare it against everything in the C tier and D tier and look at it, right? Like, I do think this is a cut above just Will of the Forsaken. Cannibalize has some good uses too in PvP and leveling and stuff. It's not useless, but I do believe Dwarf is better than Undead, yes. Gnome. I feel like Gnome is overhyped. I mean, you look at 2019, you look at some of the sweatiest, like, you know, gamers that play vanilla, they all go, and they're PvP Andes. I'm talking like Monkey News, the Apes Boys, all that. They run Gnome Warrior. And maybe I'm not seeing why they do this. It must be the type of thing that they just do not care about PvE at all. It must be almost a statement. I don't care about PvE at all. I'll wear a miner's helmet, I'll wear Edge Masters, I'll go buy that stuff, and I'll be able to do just fine in PvE. I'm playing a gnome. You have less base stamina, less base strength than some of the other races. You get Escape Artist, which is 1 minute cooldown in vanilla, gets you out of snares and slows, which is not bad. It is a big deal. You can take a hamstring off, a Nova, a Frostbolt, whatever it is. It is good, but I feel like a lot of that can be made up for with consumables, right? Like, you need a FAP regardless. Like, a warrior with FAP is just sort of basic manners. So planning to play without FAP is a consideration because people are going to have an answer to you. Like, once you FAP, warrior, you know, mages are immediately going to try to like dust you or sheep you or something. So I do think you're going to get good value out of this Escape Artist, but that's really all it brings to the table. Is just Escape Artist. It's really all you have. You get, I mean, the NG racial is decent, but it's kind of a gimmick. You know, your summons are like Skull Mob level 63s. But yeah, it's in PvE, it is technically the caster bis, just because you have higher like base int. But I just don't see it. I don't see the appeal of Gnome. Maybe people in the chat can help me out here. Why was Gnome so popular? Why was this big sort of resurgence of Gnome players? Other than they look kind of cool to some people. I just don't see it, man. I don't see it being better. All these other races are just like more balanced and stronger across both PvE and PvP. Night Elf is probably in an even worse spot than Undead or Gnome. From a rogue perspective, I do know some Giga Rogues that went Night Elf. I do think they just like the aesthetics of it and the jumps and stuff like that. You do get a bonus stealth level. It's the other aspect of Shadow Meld, which is quite good. There's no weapon skill bonus. You get Wisp form. There are some cool tricks you can do with Shadow Meld. You can drop targeting and Shadow Meld eats. I'd say Shadow Meld, what class is it the strongest on Night Elf? I think it's Hunter. It's kind of a big deal. It makes it much more viable to like run a cat pet, with Prowl. It helps you set up in the Warsong flag room in more interesting ways. You can kind of set up in plain sight and just be stealth. Because like druids or people who are coming in to try to get that flag, like there's very predictable places where you're going to play. You're either going to play in that little pocket by the room, you're going to play right on top of the flag, you're going to play on second level, you're going to play on roof. So you can be a lot more evasive and slippery. It's very like RP and cool, being able to go stealth with your pets and also have all this like tracking ability and stuff like that. So I think Shadow Meld is actually really good on Hunter. It's probably the best. You get some dodge as Night Elf too, and I know some warriors enjoy that. They think that it's good. But yeah, I'm gonna put Night Elf at the C. At the C tier here. Night Elf warriors, I mean, I think aesthetically they look mean. Like a body type 1 Night Elf, I think they look pretty cool. So they got that prison hard body. Some people think they look goofy. The casting animations, I do agree, look goofy. I think they're very visually appealing. I think they look very cool. The Night Elves, male and female. Troll, we didn't talk about Troll at all yet though. Troll warrior, bis tanks. People say it's like bis TPS tanks because they can actually use like, you know, their racial in PvE to get that like initial good snap threat. And I remember in private server like days, people were able to do that somewhat effectively. They'd like Dark Rune, take some of their gear off Dark Rune, and like start the fight Sapper, and just try to get as much snap threat as possible and get as much of that chunk of haste as possible. It's for like 8 seconds or something, right? It's like it goes from 10 to 30% haste. So, you know, from a warrior perspective, it's bis tank, but it's not BIS any other thing. It's not BIS like Fury DPS, it's not BIS for PvP. So I do think it falls behind Orc overall as far as being well-rounded. But if you're purely like a PvE tank, Giga Chad, they look very cool, they scale very well with armor, the animations are fantastic. They look amazing. Like the swing animations. Rogue, it's just worse than Orc. Like across the board, just straight across the board. And Troll Rogues look kind of goofy actually too. Doesn't look as cool as Troll Warrior. Troll Hunter, it's definitely the PvE BIS by like a decent margin, to be honest. You'll really feel that difference if you're playing Orc. I'm feeling it at the moment right now versus some of these Trolls, because you're playing a class that can totally get away with like starting a fight, you know, your max range like 40 yards away shooting. You can start the fight with low health and get maximum value from that 30% haste. It's very good on Hunter. Shaman, it's not the best. I think Orc and Tauren would probably be slightly better than it. Mage, PvE BIS as well. I think the reason why I'm considering it in B tier is that it's PvE BIS. I'm thinking maybe it goes down. Thoughts on this, guys? There's too much in the C tier, though. That's the problem. You can't put that much in C. And does it feel bad putting Tauren in D? Is Tauren truly the worst race in vanilla WoW? It's the first character I ever rolled on the Illyria realm back in 2004 winter break. Is it truly the worst race? Back in the day, all empties were Tauren. I don't think any is D tier though. Any is like PvP kind of BIS. Like if I'm Alliance Hunter right now, guys, I'm not even kidding. I was trying to be as strong as possible in PvP. You know I would unironically go Night Elf, right? Night Elf, like, it's really good. Shadow Meld is insane. And like Stoneform is good, but it's not needed. You know, you feel like you're not playing a stealth class when you have a dwarf. If you have a cat pet, it doesn't matter. You feel like you're a tracker, but you're always in plain sight and people can always see you. Night Elf is a totally different vibe, and it's PvE BIS because you have like a decent more agility. It's like 7 agility more, 9 agility more, and you get dodge and stuff, which is kind of like part of that hunter like flavor and toolkit. But Tauren doesn't have that. Is there anything BIS with Tauren? I would say you could say that Shaman would be Tauren BIS for PvP. Some people would argue that the interactions you can do with Tauren on Shaman are very good. You can cast a Chain Lightning and a War Stomp. You can Chain Lightning and Ghost Wolf away. You can War Stomp and like get a lesser healing wave off, or do something interesting. Get a few impactful globals doing something. And Shamans, you know, can benefit from that like tankiness. Only for Ellie. Yeah, exactly, because on Enhance, you know, if you wanted to try to play Enhance, Orc is going to be that all day. You'd use Axes, you'd use like a Nightfall or something, or the Blood Fury. 5% stand is massive, but in more modern meta, not as important. It does feel bad putting Tauren into D tier, but I think we covered it. And my last question to the chat, because we're figuring this out in real time too. This is the one that I need confirmation from the chat that we're good here. Is Gnome overrated? Remind me why Gnome is good. Barely has an edge in PvE. If you compare it to like whatever, just you get a little more int. That's really it. You know, if you're deciding to play Gnome on a PvE front, if you're playing a Warlock or a Mage. You get Escape Artist, but it's not so good when you factor in the idea that you have so many consumables and other stuff that can like do that job more effectively. NG skill, Gnome easy D tier. Yeah, it's possible. Gnome could be D tier. Monkey News would probably roll in his grave. Thoughts on this? But the reason why I don't want to put it D is because it is PvE BIS with some classes. Warlock, PvE BIS on Alliance, Gnome. PvE BIS, Mage, Gnome. Tauren has none. There is no PvE BIS, and there's also possibly no PvP BIS as well. I think that's really what it comes down to. Undead is also very overrated as well. They look really cool, but I do think Wodif is still pretty solid. Like, you will get feared in PvP, even in PvE sometimes, and you will get some value from this. People will magic dust you, or people are pretty sweaty in 2024. If you're playing on white main or something, those motherfuckers always have magic dust. I don't know how much it costs on white main, but there's people literally named Dust God X on white main, and they just dust you first thing they do. Just insta dust you, infinite dust. You can get out of that. You can get out of Seduce and stuff too. Harbor's coping for Night Elf. Last chance only. You think Night Elf should be higher or lower? I think Night Elf's pretty solid, dude. It's really it could be B. It's so good on Hunter that it could be B. But I think that's my Hunter. I think that's my Hunter bias if I put Night Elf B. Because what else is it good on? I mean, Druid, it's the de facto. You can't choose it. There's nothing else, right? Any lower than Gnome? No, dude. No. Nelf is hot, though. Exactly. Nelf is hot, though. All right, should we do hotness rankings next? I'm just kidding. All right, I think that's it, guys. I love this game. I love vanilla WoW. I don't want to spread bad information. This is my best attempt at doing this. I do believe that this information is like accurate to the best of my ability. So we're gonna call it there. This is my we'll just call it my Kargoz's vanilla WoW proprietary formula, proprietary blend. Take it for what it's worth. Tier list in vanilla WoW. Humans, Giga Chad, Sigma race. Taurens at the bottom of the pack, unfortunately. They look really cool. Orcs in A tier. Trolls and Dwarves in B tier. Undead, Gnomes, Night Elves in C tier. Thank you for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Comment, rate, subscribe, and that's a wrap.